Cow 182 was horrendously lame. This is a twisting tale of how this cow goes from looking like this to this. And unfortunately, she's relapsed, which is why we're back on the farm today. You're watching the Hoof GP. It's been a long and winding road for this cow. Cow 182 first came into our crush months ago, and this is how she was looking then. Absolutely terrible. I said it's been a long and winding road for this cow, and that could not be more true. She had 4 problems on this back left foot and a problem on this back right foot. We did everything we could to nurse her back to full health, and it went from looking like this, to this, to this, and finally to this. We had finally got her to a point where she was pretty much lameness free. Fast forward to today though, and I've arrived on this farm to the dairyman, the guy who's in charge of these cows, telling me that unfortunately she's relapsed. So we're getting her back in the crush to see what's wrong with cow 182 this time. There's nothing immediately obvious. Alan, the guy who looks after these cows, is really observant and notices pretty much everything. And he actually said that this point here, the fistula that was bubbling away in the first video, was the point of her pain this time. I'm struggling to see it though.
I didn't think she was that lame bringing her in.
Actually, truth be told, Alan said she was beginning to splay her legs and he was worried that she was going lame again, and he said he thought that fistula had returned, so I didn't actually think she was that lame either. But I didn't see her walking properly, so we will find out. We'll ignore the problem and do the routine part first. As I grab the grinder here and begin to attack her foot, all I'm thinking about, to be honest, is how good this foot is looking. It is a world away from what it was a couple of months ago, and I'm struggling to see any signs of lameness. But as we finish balancing off the 2 feet and modelling this area out as deeply as we can with the grinder blade, I'm grabbing the knife to make the model as deep as possible. Her foot really is looking brilliant, to be honest. Obviously, there's a problem here. Well, not a problem, but the remnants of that real issue. I'm just using the knife here to gently dish out this issue. I don't think there's a problem here, but I need to be absolutely certain. Thinking doesn't really come into it all that much. I need the proof of the pudding, and as we've taken these tiny little fragments of hoof horn away, we're beginning to see that actually there's nothing wrong here. Which is good news, obviously. Oh. Little black dot, and we know what they can mean, but this is kind of different actually. I think it's just staining. Yeah, it's coming to nothing as well, look. Right, I'm not going to take any more of that away because this is the structural part of the horn and I don't want to ruin it or compromise it in any way. Right, to be honest, I'm completely satisfied that this hoof is as good as it possibly could be right now. So when we first saw this cow, this is the fistula that was on the pastern of her foot, or the ankle in other words. It was bubbling away raw and open. We washed it out and we cleaned it with iodine. This cow was also on antibiotics, prescribed by the vet and given to her by Alan. Believe it or not, this is where the fistula was. There are no signs of it. There's a tiny little lump there that I can feel, but it's just scar tissue. I can safely say there's no issue with that foot, but she was lame in her back right. So I've got my fingers crossed. There's no issue there either. Right, we had an issue here. If we flick back to the video originally where this was a real problem, it didn't look as big as the issues on her other foot, but it was definitely causing her pain. And now today, unfortunately, you can see that little black dot starting to rear its ugly head. Right, this is slightly too long, this is slightly too high, and I'm going to shave code brown. Not good. If you're at the dentist and that happened, the dentist no doubt changes shoes. Thanks to her, I can hardly wear these out in the town now. So using the grinder here is obviously to balance up and make sure the feet are the correct length, but it also gives me a really good look at that problem. Remember, this hoof is translucent and I'm starting to see shadows. I am now fairly worried that this is causing her some discomfort. Yeah, I don't think you can see her on camera, but she is flinching from that, so that is definitely causing her a bit of discomfort. It's not huge, but it is enough to dishearten me. I just grab the grinder here, buff off the good claw, so that the glue can bond as strongly as possible. We've got a nice flat and even surface, so that Kev can glue this block on and there's no chance of it falling off. Right, I really don't want to make a cut that I don't need to make, but horn is translucent like I've just said, and it looks like there's a cavity underneath. I could be wrong, so I'm going to have to tread very carefully. You can see kind of shadowed areas. I'm not sure if it's easy to pick up on screen, but this is kind of bluey black, and then this is slightly kind of raised, which alludes to the fact that there's pressure underneath. Again, neither of us thought she was walking that badly. I hate things like this because we've worked so hard to get her to where she is right now, and she is looking miles better than she once was. And then this could be an issue, it might not be an issue. She's reacting a bit to the hoof testers, but not a huge amount. Making these little decisions can be a frustration, especially if you get it wrong. You can really see that shadow in there now though, look. Oh, right, I've just made that tiny little cut, and if we move the camera down here, we can see that there is a bit of a cavity. Just that little tiny breakthrough there tells me that we've made the right decision here. I'm just gonna delicately carve this. I'm totally devastated here actually, to be honest. I thought this cow was completely healed. You can see the remnants poking through there from where the problem was before. So it's not infected, but it has been infected at some point. This is a bit of double sole, and that double sole is causing pressure on the corium underneath. Just need to keep trimming till the darkness and the cracks and the hard edges disappear. I'm actually going to change knives. Now I can swipe up the way. I'm struggling with that other one. This isn't a huge problem, it's really, really not. As you can see, it's not weeping, it's not open, there's no fluid. There's no pink corium shining through, there's actually hoof horn being formed underneath. But this separation in the sole is no good for the cow. You can see the ingress of dirt getting into it, causing pressure and causing that discomfort. Alan was right to represent her. Somebody stuck their feet together. Kevin is a man of few words. Craig, if you're watching this, take note of Kevin. Craig's actually on holiday, by the way, just now. He's been away for 16 days travelling around the Mediterranean with my little sister and my mother and my nephews and niece. We're getting there. Look, this is trimming out really nicely actually. Just don't want these cracks to remain there. I need to get rid of them, because if I don't, all that will happen is Mark will push into it and actually spread that crack further up the wall horn. Right now it's not a huge issue. We weren't even sure she was lame. Luckily Alan was though. Right, this is hard. I'm just going to reduce it with the grinder quickly. Although the grinder is incredibly aggressive, as you can see here, we can be extremely delicate. So in the right hands, it's a fantastic tool. You can hear the noise of the tractors in the background, by the way. I think he's mucking out a shed. Sorry for the beeping, sorry for the tractor noises. We are a working farm. I've not quite got this and it's frustrating me. Haha, haha. Lovely. You can actually see that is exactly where the problem has emanated from. If you can get that out, it shouldn't come back. Right, I'll just remove this from up in here. Just about done. Right, this is actually turning out pretty well, to be fair. If we look up in between the claws, we've got rid of all that cracking hoof horn. This looks like a mess, but there is no detached hoof horn left. And actually, this hoof horn that's underneath that we have unmasked and unveiled is pretty hard and really sound. It doesn't have any work to do though, because the block is going to do all of the work while that thickens up. Right, Kevin has actually trimmed her front feet as we were doing this, so it's time to see how she walks. As we let her out of the crush, she takes very careful and thought out steps, looking at the body condition of this cow, how fleshy, how meaty, how healthy she looks compared to this first image of her leaving the crush. It makes me proud to be a hoof trimmer, but as she's walking away, it's a bit upsetting and disheartening that she has relapsed on that back right foot a little bit. She still has pain in that foot, but she is healthier and should be able to overcome it much more quickly than she did initially. Her back left foot has completely and utterly healed, and that in itself is a massive achievement that I for one am very proud of. Anyway, from me and from Cow 182, this was the Hoof GP. Remember, the merch is fully restocked.